webinars on our DCA YouTube channel, by the way, usually a couple of days after the recording. Today's topic is small business is having a moment. And to be clear, that's a good thing. I'm coming to you live today from Made Mercantile. It's in Woodstock, and you may see makers and artisans behind me during the webinar. We'll take a few minutes as we wrap up today to meet them and hear how they made this project happen. Today's title comes from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance's report, Small Businesses Big Moment. You can find that at ilsr.org. Natalie may put that in the chat for you. It's down near the bottom of their site under editor's picks. But in short, it offers 12 steps. And here's the lead in from Kennedy Smith. Many of you know her from Main Street. The American Rescue Plan gives civic leaders a once-in-a-generation opportunity to fix the broken approach to economic development and level the playing field for small business. Putting them at the growth at the heart of the local economic development strategies would be transformative, generating benefits that will ripple through nearly every aspect of our communities and local economies for decades. So Kennedy gave me the idea to bring this webinar to you guys and round up the talent so that you would have some tools and resources in the small business arena. To level the playing field, we have 4 speakers to cover some of those resources today. Holly will go first, speaking about SSBCI version 2, brand new. Brooke will cover the Grow and Create programs, both new at Georgia Power. Cherie will cover the downtown revolving loan funds, and Jessica will cover Main Street. These will be brief, high level, but you can certainly dive deeper with these professionals now that you've connected with them if you have not in the past. For housekeeping, I'm your host, Tracy Sanchez. For those of you who haven't met, I'm in Region 3, DCA. My colleague Natalie's here from Region 8. She's going to help me monitor the chat box, which is where you're free to pose your questions to our speakers, and we'll take those at the end. Holly, you are up first, and as you get your slides ready for the screen, we're doing a quick read of the room, and this requires audience participation. So for those of you online already, find your reactions toolbar. For me, it's up top right next to the chat button, and you'll have one of 2 choices. If you're an economic development partner, you're going to use thumbs up. If you're a small business owner, you're going to use the heart symbol. And everybody do that at the same time, and we'll see who we have. Thumbs, thumbs, thumbs. And if any of you can scroll to other screens, you may see others. Okay, so I'm thinking what I saw is a lot of economic development partners in the room. So that's your audience speakers for today. And certainly they'll be able to pass these tools and resources on to the small business endeavors that come about in their communities. And I will note that we have communities from across the state tuning in today. So we have tools for the downtowns and minority businesses in rural areas. I think we're going to cover a good bit. And I want to jump right in and let Holly take it away.
Okay.
When you're ready, Holly.
I'm going to share the PowerPoint screen where you're going to be able to see the little slides on the side. It works better for me that way. And in order for me to talk about 2.0, I'm going to need to talk a little bit about 1.0 because 2.0 will just enhance 1.0.
It's going to give you one.
And so a lot.
Be careful if you go over to farmers market pavilion.
Let's make sure to mute our own microphones while Holly has the stage. Everyone will check that quickly.
So can everybody see my screens? Tracy, can you see it? Okay, good. So this is my information. You'll have it on the PowerPoint slide if you need me, my number and my email address. We're going to talk about the State Small Business Credit Initiative. This is the screen that I normally use. And we are going to, this is the PowerPoint I normally use, but we're just going to fast forward through just a few of the slides to pick out the high levels of it. You'll have it in detail to read later. So first time around, we got 48 million. And we've been working with that since 2012. And Right now, we're operating two programs. That would be the Small Business Credit Guarantee Program, which is a 50% loan guarantee program, and the Loan Participation Program, which is a loan participation, like banks would participate with each other, they would participate with us instead. We will be enhancing these programs in 2.0. And so just real quickly, this program is not a direct lending program. This is the one program that DCA has that goes straight to the private sector. So our funds are distributed through approved lenders. That would be banks, credit unions, and CDFIs. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that this is a delegated lending program. The lenders will underwrite their loans according to their own underwriting guidelines. We will not dictate to them how to underwrite their loans. So they'll set their own interest rates and their own terms within the guidelines of the program. Some of the things these programs can do, we can do startup cost, we can do working capital, we can help with franchise fees for like Dairy Queens and stuff like that. We can help with equipment and inventory. We can help build buildings, do building renovations. We cannot do refinancing of loans. However, we can help with renewal of loans if the loans are at maturity. This is at the same bank. If a loan is at bank A and they want to refinance it and take it to bank B, we can do that under certain circumstances. The banks know to contact us and talk it through with us for those certain circumstances. We cannot do passive real estate lending. It has to be small business owner occupied. So we're going to move along into the loan participation program right now under 1.0, and we're going to talk about 1.0 and 2.0 because we're going to be doing both programs simultaneously. Because these 1.0 loans, that's still revolving loan money. So that's here in perpetuity. So for 1.0, we can purchase up to 25% of the bank's loan up to $1 million. Anything over $1 million, we're capped at $250,000. We can participate in SBA 504 loans in the interim construction phase. And then the SBA debenture just pays us out. We're always in second lien position, and there's no fees to the bank or the borrower to participate in this program. The lender just services the loan and passes us our portion of the P&I each month. For the and this is just high level because we've got limited time. For the guarantee program, it's just a 50% loan guarantee with the bank's loan. Right now, we're capped at a $200,000 guarantee on a $400,000 loan. This program is really good for working capital line of credits and term loans for things such as equipment and inventory, where loan participation works really well for real estate backed loans. There is a minimum fee of $100 application fee and a 2% fee on the guaranteed amount up front. We're doing away with the annual fee. Now, let's talk about 2.0. I said we got 48 million the first time. We are getting another 199,616,000 in round two. That's a lot of money. So we need a lot of banks to sign up. And this is important because this is like a gap financing program. If you're trying to attract businesses, manufacturing, anything into your areas, and they have some sort of a gap financing need, this loan participation program is really good for that. If they need working capital line of credits, then our 50% guarantee program is good for that. This time around, there's a focus on the socially and economically disadvantaged people and businesses. That is, we call those steady businesses and very small businesses. This is going to be probably in late December, early January. It depends on when we get our final executed agreement with Treasury. We're waiting on that now. We are going to have 5 programs this time. The 50% guarantee and our loan participation program will be back with higher limits. Our CDFI, we're going to have a CDFI program that we had before. We're bringing that back, and we're going to have 2 new venture capital programs. The details are not ready on that, so I can't really explain the details, but one is going to be a direct equity program, and one is going to be a fund of funds. Invest Georgia, which is another sister agency, will be handling the administration of that for us, and they will be administering the investments on our behalf. We will just have the oversight of compliance. They will be making the investment decisions. So let's talk about the loan participation program. We will be able to do 25% of a bank's loan up to $5 million. Anything over 5 million will be capped at $1,250,000 instead of $250,000. That will really open up our abilities to help with the larger projects. Again, has to be small business, which is 500 employees or less. The most we can be in on is a deal of $20 million. You can have multiple banks in the capital stack. Our relationship will be with the lead bank, which has to be an approved lender. Everything else is the same. Second lien position, no fees, still can participate with SBA 504. And then with the SBCG program, again, 50% on loans up to 1 million with a $500,000 guarantee. This is particularly good because a lot of our requests are for $1 million line working capital line of credits. So that will really help as well. Again, $100 processing fee. We'll do a sliding scale on the upfront, 2% on the upfront fee, depending on the size, because this time we're going to be trying to concentrate on that very small borrower. So probably anywhere between 0.5% and 2%, depending on the size. No annual fees. There's going to be a CDFI program where we will participate with the CDFI and they will do a companion loan with a bank. We don't care what the bank's doing. We don't care how much the bank's doing as long as the total project cost isn't over 20 million. Our relationship will be the CDFI and their maximum will be $1,250,000. Again, no fees from us to use the program. And so for those of you that are in the audience today that are small businesses, you're probably wondering what the banks are going to be looking for. Typically, not always, they're going to be looking for at least 3 years of personal and business financial statements. The same for tax returns. They're going to be looking for, in a lot of instances, depending on the type of the loan, make perhaps a business plan with 3 years of pro forma financial statements. You have to know where you're going and what you think your income and expenses will be over the next 2 to 3 years. They're going to be looking to collateral to support the value of the loan. We will loan up to 100% loan collateral value. So in our opinion, you don't have to have any skin in the game. It depends on the bank. That's the purpose of the 25% loan participation. That's the gap financing. Most banks will want 75% loan to value. And with our 25%, that automatically gets them to a loan to value of 75%. So you don't necessarily have to have any cash equity in the project. That's the beauty of the program. Make sure you don't have any outstanding tax liens, and make sure that you're credit worthy. This is not a program of last resort. This is a financial gap program for you. And that's basically about it. If you have any any questions whatsoever, I'm always available to answer your questions. It's best to try to work with your bank. If your bank is not currently an approved lender, I will be glad to work with them for them to become an approved lender. If not, we'll help you find an approved lender. We have our approved lenders listed on our website under our other resources tab. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you for some inspiration and some big numbers there, because that's a great way to kick off today to know what type of resources are out there for small businesses. We'll go to your website. Natalie can share that link to make sure we know how to figure out if our lender's on there. And then what's the next step for a good starting point?
I guess just contact your lender, and if your lender will not make the loan for some reason for a gap purpose, I mean, if they're going to require any cash equity and you don't have the cash equity, let's say that they're going to require cash equity, and if you put your cash into the loan itself and then don't have any cash to operate with, then that's a gap financing problem. Then you'll have to turn around and get a working capital line of credit, and you may not want to do that. Then you've got a loan and a capital line of credit. And so then I would look at the loan participation program. So I'm always open to, to help and look at which way to go, or working with your bank. Tell your banker, you'll be sitting there in front of your banker and say, hey, let's call Holly Hunt and see what she has. If you're interested in this program, she can help us work through it.
Okay, I think that's the great starting point. Call Holly Hunt. And you mentioned that there was something that wouldn't come online until December or January. So
yeah,
stay tuned on that.
Yeah, the 2.0 program, we have to get we're unofficially approved by Treasury, but we have to get the allocation agreement signed by Treasury and Commissioner Nunn and get that executed. And then once that's executed, we have 90 days to become operational. So that means we have to have all the new forms with the new compliance requirements, then all the new master agreements sent out to the banks for them to sign. And that'll take about 90 days. And then we'll be ready to roll probably the end of December.
Right. Okay.
But in the meantime, remember, we have 1.0 that's still rolling and going.
It is. So Holly's wearing two hats at the same time with several programs. Y'all definitely reach out for any further assistance with that. And our next speaker up, I see Brooke on the camera there and her colleague Vanessa, and they're going to talk to us about the Grow and Create programs, which are both new. I've heard a little bit about rural. I've heard a little bit about minority business. And so I'm excited to hear how those programs help small business owners. Take it away, ladies.
Hey, good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay? Great. So like Tracy, I am, being flexible. We're actually hosting an event here at SunTrust Park with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, which is really exciting. But she asked me to do this a long time ago, and there is no way that I would have missed it. So I'm pulling my presentation up, and she did ask me to speak to those two programs, but I'm going to throw a few other things in there as well, just because I had the floor, and this is a passion area for me. I grew up in small business, and so that's kind of where my heart is, even though I work for Georgia Power now. So it's really special to me that we make the investments that we do in the small business community across the state. Is my presentation showing up okay? Perfect.
You got it.
All right. So for those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm Brooke Perez. I'm on the Community and Economic Development team here at Georgia Power. On the regional side, so I cover North Fulton, DeKalb, Rockdale, and Woodnett. So if you're a business owner or you work in any of those spaces and you hear or see anything today that piques your interest, I've included my contact information on the last slide, or you can get me through Tracy. And then the second plug I'll make is that in addition to the programs I'm going to talk about, if you go out to selectgeorgia.com, that's been a long-standing tool that our team has provided. And really in the last year, we've rolled out a lot of self-service tools that has access to tons of interesting data around demographics and workforce and analytics. And so for those of you that are engaging with small businesses, or if you're a small business owner, there's some really great content in there that would otherwise be expensive to subscribe to or get otherwise. And so I always just like to make a plug for Select Georgia. And if you go to research and resources, you'll see all of those self-service tools out there. And there's really a lot of information that you can find helpful or applicable, depending on what you're doing. So the first thing that Tracy had asked me to speak to was CREATE. So that stands for Cultivating Rural Entrepreneurs and Transforming Economies. My colleagues Scott Purvis and Sarah Carnes were instrumental in designing and developing this program, but it's been in partnership with Main Street America, the University of Georgia Office of Public Service and Outreach. And essentially it was this notion that everyone on this call understands that small business is the backbone of our economy. And so how could we help that flourish, especially in our rural communities where they might be, the conditions might be there and the people might be there, but maybe not all of the resources. Sorry, I'm having to toggle between slides so you guys can see and I can see my notes. So all of this information is available on our website, and I'm going to plop that into the chat. But essentially, it was an application-based program. So it was launched last year and all over the state. And we did end up having a variety of communities apply and join the cohort. And we're not going to open it again until 2024. So I was sort of hesitant. I just heard that from my team yesterday. So I was hesitant to talk about it today, but I think it's important to tell the story of what we're doing, but also to be thinking long-term if this is something that you or one of your communities might be interested in the future. So essentially it's funding and it is a resource that's going to come into your community and help identify the assets or gaps around what's already existing around entrepreneurship and small business. What are some areas for investment? And then sort of looking at what are all the parts and pieces that are going to help build a healthy entrepreneurial ecosystem in a community. Regional resources, probably many of you on the phone today that are a part of that. And what are the unique assets in your community, whether that's a thriving downtown or maybe a particular population or subpopulation that lives in an area. And then figuring out all the partners and resources that are available, funding. So everything that Holly just talked about absolutely would be a part. And sort of, if you've got the right conditions and you've got the right people, we all know that access to capital can be a huge barrier oftentimes. And then finally, bringing everybody together for training, to share best practices. A lot of these communities have not the same, but similar struggles. And so the whole notion of the CREATE cohort was to bring everybody together so that the resources and best practices and all those good things could be shared. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So these are the inaugural communities that were successful in what I do see. Oh, Vanessa's responding. Okay, I was going to say I've got there's an app on our website. So if you go here to the Learn More link I've included, you'll see all of that. But congratulations to the communities that are in the first cohort: Baldwin, Bleckley, Hart, Pickens, Polk, and Toombs. So they submitted very compelling applications. They've already gotten started. There's been 2 face-to-face meetings. There's also been some virtual meetings, and it will last 2 years. So I'm excited to see sort of, and maybe perhaps this time next year, be able to report out on how those communities have taken all of the resources and the funding through CREATE and sort of build those ecosystems or support the entrepreneurs. And then again, I don't want to make any promises here, but we are looking to launch another cohort again, which would be in 2024. So definitely stay tuned to our website, make sure you're following us on all of our social channels, or you're staying plugged in with your Georgia Power partner in your community or me, and we'll make sure that you get access to the application if we're able to launch the way that we intend. Any questions about the CREATE program? I see Vanessa is helping do some questions in the chat. Any questions before I move on to a couple of other things? Okay, awesome. All right, so here were just a few other things that I did want to mention. And again, you can see the link on the page. I'll drop that. I dropped it in the chat earlier. We do so much. I'm super, proud of Georgia Power's investment in our communities across the state. And so I went out to our foundation philanthropy reports and let me just see what else is out there around small business. And these were just a couple of the things that I picked. So number one, I wanted to shout out that it is the Minority Supplier Celebration Week. And Tracy, in fact, the shop that you're in, I bought a pair of earrings from a small business owner back in August from there. So they're my big dangly bulldog earrings. I don't have them on today, but I thought that was really cool that that's where you're reporting live from today. But anyways, just a quick commercial on a couple of these programs. Not only are we heavily investing in supporting our communities and our small businesses, but we're walking the walk, right? So as a large employer and revenue generator of products and services, we have doubled down on our effort to make sure that we're engaging with that community. We've had a longstanding history in this space in terms of training suppliers, whether they could do business with us or maybe governmental contracts or other big businesses, but we've doubled down on that. And so I'm really proud of Vicki Irwin and Nikita Trivedi and others in that group that are supporting the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council. And so I've put a link to that in here, really just not only with financial resources, but with our thought leadership and making sure that we're walking the walk. And we're saying, hey, it's important to give business to these small businesses and minority-owned small businesses, but we also got to make sure they're ready. So how can we give them business, but give them the tools and resources to where they can be effective so that, they don't have a PO or an order out there that they really can't fulfill on, because that really doesn't deliver against the mission. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the Georgia Power Forward initiative. This was, like many of us in COVID, figuring out how can we help our small businesses. So we partnered with the Georgia Small Business Capital Fund, and this may be aligned with some of those things that Holly was mentioning as well. Included a link here to make sure that we were doing our part for that small business revolving loan fund for businesses that were negatively impacted during COVID, which is just about everybody. And then just some specific things that popped out were both with the Latin American Chamber of Commerce as well as the Latino Community Fund. Again, we're investing resources both with our leaders and financially to for each of those organizations to give technical tools and resources for entrepreneurs in those communities. So those were just a couple of things I wanted to mention. If you go to this link, you'll see our entire philanthropy report, and there's links to each of these programs in there. And then, of course, if you have any questions, please follow up with me, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with anybody that can give you more details. And I'm going to come back to my slide. And I'm really excited. I'm going to now pass it over to my colleague, Vanessa Wagner, who has joined us really, in the last year, right? Yeah. And so this has been, so we're thrilled to have her on our marketing and communications team. And that Grow Georgia has really been one of her brainchilds. And when Tracy asked me to talk about it, I said, I'll be happy to come do it. But Vanessa is going to really give it the justice that it deserves. I do just want to point out before I pass it over to her that it is a part of what you're seeing Georgia Power focus on, again, walking the walk internally and externally on our commitments to equity and our social justice pillars. So you can see very clearly through just sort of this high level snippet where this type of program and support lands in terms of, again, how we're being a consumer of the services and products of our small businesses, but we're also supporting them. So I'm going to go on mute. I'm going to pass it over to Vanessa.
Great. Thank you so much, Brooke. And aligned with those economic pillars, when community and economic development has historically worked or been assumed to work with large businesses, those manufacturers, those large corporate headquarters, but we saw the need to support our minority owned and small businesses across the state. Not only do these represent nearly a little over 38,000 businesses across Georgia, they're also employing over 500,000 hardworking Georgians. So ensuring that they have opportunities to connect to resources and accelerate their growth is incredibly important to our team as well as the rest of Georgia Power. And while they are a growing segment of our economy and an important segment of our economy, unfortunately, they're still facing barriers to growth. In fact, recent statistics show that Black entrepreneurs are denied loans twice as often as their white counterparts. And then when they do receive these loans, they're paying higher interest rates. So this certainly, we're working to support them and making sure that they know the available resources that are focused on their unique challenges and providing opportunities for their success certainly does align with Georgia Power's social pillars, as well as community and economic development's mission. So we were trying to identify the best way to help them. And there's great people working already. There's chambers that are focused on their success. There's contracting opportunities. There's funding sources, as we just learned about, that may have an edge towards the minority businesses. So rather than try to recreate the wheel, we've created Grow Georgia, which next slide, please, Brooke. Thank you so much. Which we are aggregating all of those resources across the state and putting them in one location, making it easy for entrepreneurs to find these resources, but not only the resource that they might think they need, but identifying other opportunities. There's a lot of research around entrepreneurship ecosystems, that being able to access information quickly and identify supporting resources is incredibly critical to the success and helping grow businesses quicker and more effectively. So when we had to decide which resources go on there, we had the opportunity to do a survey of minority-owned businesses, and we saw that when they were looking for customers, they were looking for ways to connect and build communities. And this won't come as a surprise to many of you, access to capital is always certainly important. So at Grow Georgia, we found resources from across the state that meet these goals. So under networking and contracting, when you visit the site, this is where you'll see our minority-focused chambers. And when I do say minority, I should clarify we are looking at ethnic and racial minority groups at this time. We also put in contracting opportunities with Fortune 500 companies. As Brooke mentioned, Georgia Power has been a great leader in this, but so have other popular brands around the state, everyone from Coca-Cola to Home Depot. Unfortunately, if you are trying to find some of these programs, it can take up to 20 clicks on a website. And we know that time is important to small business owners. So when you visit that contracting site, it's going to be 1 or 2 clicks at the most to get to the information you need so that you can identify if it's a right opportunity for you. Then, of course, access to capital. It's still one of our most popular pages, as I'm sure it is a request that a lot of you receive from businesses you work with. So for our funding resources, we do have everything from grants, loans to private equity that are focused on minority business success. Now, I heard access to capital is great and important, but I have a quote that stuck with me when I was having a conversation with Moncello Stewart, the president of the Greater Savannah Black Chamber of Commerce, that said, yes, we can give money to an entrepreneur, but do they know what to do with it when they get it? So that's why we put our training resources under the same tab, so that they can access statewide SBDC, SCORE mentors, and other programs to help make sure that they have the information, the knowledge, the skills needed to be successful with whether it's funding or marketing plans, mentorship, all of those additional resources that are important when growing a business. Then the fun part of Grow Georgia has been the success stories. There is that old mantra, if you can see it, you can be it. And that truly is something we've seen with entrepreneurs. So at least once a month, we feature an entrepreneur from across the state and share their story of success, highlight them, link back to their pages. But also when we're doing those interviews, we're asking them questions about the resources they used. So that way we can share that opportunity and help other people achieve that type of success. So I encourage you to visit the site, explore it. It is certainly something that is a long-term initiative of Georgia Power that we will continue to build upon. So as you're using the site, viewing it, please let us know if there's a resource that should be on there. If there's an opportunity, something like, I know I'm going to be pinging Holly shortly because I'm like, oh, I need to put that on there when that comes out. That's a great opportunity. And we do have a news and event section that those can go on. So please let us know if there's additional resources or if there's an entrepreneur that is doing amazing things and deserves that spotlight shown on them. We'd be happy to consider all of those and amplify that message across the state. I look forward to connecting with many of you to continue discussing Grow Georgia and how we can support minority-owned businesses across the state.
Thank you so much, ladies. The aggregate toolbox, putting that all in one place is incredibly useful. and celebrating the successes and hearing from the entrepreneurs, which we will do later from these makers and artisans right behind me, a big part of the process. So thank you for sharing that. And in the chat, clarifying the criteria for some of your programs. Next up, we have Cherie Bennett, and she will talk to us about revolving loan funds in your downtowns. And if you are ready, Cherie.
Yes, can you see my screen?
I see, I think we're switching over from books to yours. Yes, I see it. You're
Okay.
good.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. All right, so my name is Cherie Bennett. I'm with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs as well, and I'm going to talk about our DDRLF program, which is the Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund program. So what is it? It's a gap financing tool designed to help local governments revitalize their downtowns, and we offer a low interest rate. We come in as we're willing to be in a subordinated debt position to private bank financing, and we can also offer technical assistance. In order to qualify, the project needs to be located within the core historic commercial district of the downtown, and also any adjacent historic neighborhoods. So, often there are the historic neighborhoods that abut historic downtowns, and many of those historic residential properties have been converted and are now rezoned commercial. So those would also be eligible for the DDRLF program. And cities and counties with populations below 100,000 are also eligible. What kind of activities are eligible? Well, we can do land acquisition, building acquisition, new construction, renovation, or combinations of the above. I would say more often than not, we do historic building acquisition and then the renovation of that building. We love to see a vacant building brought back to life with, say, someone coming in into the vacant building, putting in a couple of commercial units on the bottom floor and then some residential units on the second floor. So bringing the building back to life, but also creating new business, new jobs, and also having that residential component. The types of things we can't be involved in are working capital, operating expenses. We cannot refinance a permanent loan that's already existing. We cannot pay for administrative costs, and we also cannot be the source to fund a local revolving loan fund. But here are some other projects just around the state to give you an idea of the types of projects that we've been involved with. Law offices in downtown Noonan, Empire South Clothing Store in downtown Hartwell, Scoops Ice Cream Shop in downtown Metter, co-working space in downtown Canton, the Lift Fitness Studio in downtown Bainbridge, Story on the Square Bookshop in downtown McDonough, Fuzzy Goat Yarn Shop in downtown Thomasville, which is probably the most unique project we've been involved with. I can't say we've ever done a yarn shop up till then or since then. And then mixed use spaces, including retail and apartments in downtown Dublin and Statesboro. And our typical loan terms, we have a 15-year term with a 15-year amortization. Our interest rate is a 3% interest rate. But for those cities that are Main Street cities, classic Main Street cities in good standing with the program, we can offer a 2% interest rate for those. There is no application fee or loan origination fees. And the application is made by the Downtown Development Authority. So the DDA is the official applicant for this program. And that's just because of the state gratuities clause, DCA as a state agency cannot make a loan directly to a private business. So the DDA is the conduit through those funds for those funds. So at the loan closing, DCA makes a loan to the DDA, and then simultaneously the DDA then loans the money to the business. Our maximum loan amount is $250,000, but that cannot exceed 40% of total eligible project costs. So you've got to figure out what your total project cost first, and then figure out what 40% of that is, and that's how we could come in and assist. The minimum loan amount would be $50,000, and our loans are typically structured this way, with the bank coming in at 50% of total project costs, DDRLF loan coming in at 40% with that gap financing, and then we require a 10% owner equity injection. So successful DDRLF applications, applications are accepted year-round, but they must demonstrate that gap in financing. So we will be asking for the commitment letter from the bank to make sure that there is, in fact, that gap in financing in place. We want to see that the project fits in with the community's plans for downtown revitalization. We want to know that the project's going to have a positive impact on downtown. So will it create new jobs? Will it create new businesses? Will a blighted building be removed from the downtown? Will there be new residential units put into the building? So will the project have an overall positive impact on downtown? Is the project feasible and sound? And is the borrower creditworthy? We do have underwriters, so we'll go through the underwriting process, and we do ask for things similar to what Holly was saying that she asked for with the business plan, the 3-year pro forma, and that kind of thing, tax returns, etc. As I said, applications are accepted year-round. We have a pre-application that you do first, and that's what we call the initial project assessment, or the IPA. And we also require that one of our DCA regional reps do a site visit. So in Region 3, that would be Tracy Sanchez. So she would be your first point of contact if you're interested in an IPA, or you can always call me and talk through the project with me. So if you are approved on the IPA level, then you're invited to submit a full application. So that's when you'll do that. And then I have some success stories from the Region 3 area. This is the Mystic Grill in Covington. This is in downtown Covington on the historic Courthouse Square. And this project, or this property, was built in 1906 as a bank building in downtown. And you may recognize it because the facade of the building served as the facade prop for the television series, The Vampire Diaries. The interior of the building had fire damage, and the building was vacant and unused. And so 2 couples purchased the building to play off the success of the TV show and offer a real Mystic Grill experience to fans of the Vampire Diaries show. This is the source and use for that project, just to give you an idea. We came in at $250,000. Total project cost was $1.8 million. Our sister agency, the Georgia Cities Foundation, also came in at $250,000. The bank came in at $845,000, and then owner equity of $450,000. This is what the interior looked like after renovation was completed. It is a restaurant and event space that looks similar to what the Mystic Grill looks like in the TV show. The bar here on the upper left is actually an exact replica of the bar from the television show. And then there's also a great rooftop bar that overlooks the downtown historic Courthouse Square. In the bottom, they have another revenue generator with the Alley Gift Shop and Mystic Museum. And here they have props and costumes from different shows that have been filmed in downtown Covington, from Vampire Diaries, the originals, Sweet Magnolias TV show, In the Heat of the Night, and even the Dukes of Hazzard. They have memorabilia from those shows. And then also you can buy souvenirs. So this was a great new business that hired about 40 new employees, created 40 new jobs in downtown Covington, and really was a catalyst for the creation of other restaurants in the downtown area. So great success story there. Another restaurant on the downtown Courthouse Square, also in Covington, is City Pharmacy. City Pharmacy was built in 1937 and was used as a pharmacy up until around the 1990s. The pharmacy closed, and then a coffee shop came in. Sorry for the blurry picture, but this is a picture of what the City Pharmacy looked like around I'm going to say late 1970s, since there is a car that looks like the one from the Dukes of Hazzard out front. This is what it looks like now. It's a fabulous restaurant, and they really brought new life to this building. And it's a 65-seat restaurant with a bar. And this is the before picture. I love befores and afters like this. So you have the before and the after of that. It's a 65-seat restaurant, serves Southern style cuisine, and also has specially mixed drinks that they serve at the soda fountain there. And this is the source and use for this project. Again, DDRLF came in at 250, and GCF also came in on this project as well at 250. The bank at 551, and then owner equity of almost 600,000. So just wanted to show you those examples. And if you have a project in mind that you want to talk through in more detail, you're welcome to give me a call. Here's my contact information. You can always talk to Tracy as well. But yeah, if there are there any questions in the chat?
I know that 2 pitfalls you always tell me to pass along to folks are that you got to go to the bank first.
Yes.
And that even though the DDA is your partner, as soon as the money passes on to the private business, they're out of the equation. Is that part right?
They are out of the equation because then once they make that loan to you, then you're making payments back to DCA. You're not making them to the DDA. But definitely you need to go to the bank first to know if there is truly a gap in financing.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that high level overview and your contact information. I know people will be reaching out. I see in the chat all kind of connections, but we got one more speaker for the day, and that's Jessica Worthington about Georgia's Main Street program and assistance for small businesses in that channel. Thank you, Jessica.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm bringing up the rear, the end of our time together. I actually don't have a formal presentation because I wanted to use an opportunity for us to kind of chat and have a dialogue, do some Q&A. So throw in the chat box, bring that back up for me. Throw in there how familiar you are with Main Street, the Main Street program. So just throw me a couple words, so I can see the audience that we're talking to. So I want to make sure if I need to cover stuff, I do, but at the same time, I know we have some managers on the call, so I don't want to go into a whole 101 with you guys if you're very familiar with it. So throw some stuff in the chat for me. Yep, got Taylor. Somewhat familiar, appreciate it. Yep, Frazzleton, I saw Jessica in the house. Love it, love it. So looks like, again, what I thought is we do have some familiarity. One of the things I am dropping in the chat for you guys right now is a PDF version of our Main Street 101. So anything I talk about today and everything in more depth is going to be in that document. Again, so if you're not as familiar with it as some of our other folks on the call are, it's an opportunity for you to kind of peruse it at your own pace. But so again, my name is Jessica Worthington. I'm the director of the Office of Downtown Development with DCA. And actually, we have almost our entire team with us here on the call today. We have Elizabeth Elliott, our preservation planner, Ellen Hill, our compliance coordinator, and Ebony Simpson, our newly brought on organization strategic planning coordinator. So you guys have like the full showing today. And it was really interesting listening to everybody's presentation leading up to this, because I'm familiar with all these concepts, but then to, hear it from the horse's mouth and the experts is always fun to do. But, it kind of struck me that, between SSBCI and these incredible programs that Georgia Power is doing, like the CREATE program and then the DDRLF, that the place that all these things really come together is in our downtown districts, right? So, that, all this really, culminates with downtown. And, what we do in our office is really help support communities, but on that organizational level. So, for us, we're not necessarily working with just like one individual in a community or one small business. Usually the role that we have is that we come in and provide that support, resources, training, compliance, all that kind of stuff for an organization. And sometimes that organization is part of the city. Sometimes that organization is a nonprofit. Sometimes that organization may be a chamber. And one of the unique things about our program, the Georgia Main Street program, which is one of the signature programs of our office, is that, you know, we've been around for so long. So we were founded in 1980. So we've been around for 40 plus years, but also is the uniqueness, right? And Tracy and I had kind of talked about that when we were first talking about putting this together. And, you know, the interesting thing is that there is not necessarily a one size fits all approach to this, but that's what I love the most about what we do is that things can be scaled up, scaled down, tweaked and changed, that things can evolve over time. And I think, you know, especially when it comes to supporting small businesses, I would say getting creative, right, is half the battle. And the other half is making sure that we're engaging with the public. And what I mean by that is sometimes in government and organizations, we have a tendency to be a little dad approach to things, which means we decide we're going to do something, we announce we're going to do it, and then we have to defend why we're going to do it. And so what we try and do with our office and the Main Street approach is we want you to take the pop approach to things, which means we want to have people owning the project or people owning the problem. So encouraging that community engagement, that activation of volunteers, knowing that we can't as one person or one entity do anything alone, that we are all in this together. And again, you know, that's the fun part about kind of what we do. But again, to be able to see how all these things, you know, come together and culminate. So I would love to hear from you guys. Throw some stuff in the chat. You know, what are some challenges or issues that you guys are facing in your communities? See if I can direct you to some resources or help give you some more information with that. I'll give y'all a second to do that. And while you are, you know, throwing some stuff out at us in the chat, I'll also talk about, you know, a couple different things that we have. So Elizabeth, I know you're on our call. If you could throw into the chat box for us our Georgia Main Street website. If you have never checked that out, it's an incredible, incredible resource. We have all kinds of trainings. We've got our calendar for upcoming things. We've got resources, again, links to different financial programs and stuff like that. The things you've heard today, we try and reiterate that and connect you to the right places. Make sure you're getting the right sources. If you are a representative of an economic development entity or even the city and you're trying to get started and you're not really sure exactly where to start, you can reach out to us. Elizabeth, why don't you drop in there our general email address? And so one of the things we did was set up a general email address for our entire team. So if you have a question, thank you. This is where you go, mainstreet@dca.ga.gov. And the great thing about that is that it actually connects with our entire team. So you don't have to know exactly who you need to talk to or, you know, where you need to end up. All you need to do is just have your question. You send it to that email address and we will respond to you and make sure that you get the help you need in the place that you need it. Tracy, I saw you putting your finger up. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I want to see if you can link up to something Holly mentioned all the way at the beginning about CDFIs. And this was just because you guys held a great conference with the Georgia Downtown Association in Macon last month. I know many of you were there. And we saw an unusual example of a DDA and a CDFI. And is that unusual? How did they get there?
Yeah, it actually is unusual. Like I said before, there is a little bit of a unique approach to how each community structures themselves and sets themselves up. So as you guys may be familiar with Macon, Macon is actually a consolidated government, right? So their city and county consolidated several years ago. So they're known, you know, affectionately to non-tourists probably as Macon Bib, right? That's how we refer to them. And the Main Street program actually used to be housed under the city/consolidated government. And one of the things that they did several years ago was make a transition out of the consolidated government and into an organization called Newtown Macon. And so Newtown Macon is not just a nonprofit, but like Tracy was talking about, a CDFI, which again allows them a lot of opportunity to tap into to money and funding. And again, that is a unique setup. They have an incredible downtown, and they have been working so hard to really transform the community. But one of the great things that I think is the example to take away from that is that just because something starts one way doesn't mean it has to end that way, right? That as our communities evolve, so should our approach. And sometimes that means looking at what we're doing and saying, is this still working? Do we need to do something in a new way? Do we need to take a new approach to it? Like Holly said, because Newtown Macon is a CDFI, they can actually be an approved lender for SSBCI. So again, this is a very unique setup for them and for our communities. But we do have a lot of unique setups. And I think, again, that really goes back to what are the needs of your community? What are the needs of the people in your community, the businesses in your community, and not just assuming that we know, but also engaging them and asking them. And maybe that is through a community visioning session, a listening session, a strategic planning session, focus groups, but figuring out ways to approach the community, not expecting them to meet us, but for us to meet them where they're at. Tracy, I see you got some guests with you.
Yes, and I think it's a great segue from being flexible, having unique situations in every community, hearing from the leaders of the community and the entrepreneurs, how they made it happen. And that's exactly what I want to do right now. Let's turn it over to Brian and Kaylee and let them tell you about Made Mercantile. Who's here? How did they get here?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Let's
so
do it.
thank you, Tracy, and all of you for joining us for a second here in our space. Madison Blue, I believe, is on here at the beach, but on the webinar here, so she can give you her contact information if you guys have any follow-up questions on us. But real quick, probably 5 or 6 years ago, Madison actually brought the idea of a retail makerspace to me as a private business idea, and realized that pretty quickly that there's a built-in need in our community to create a co-work space due to that community that was here already. And so we weren't able to figure that out either because of real estate costs or other things through kind of private business. And the DDA decided to take that on and really get out there and support. So in 2020, we were fortunate enough to lease a 4,000 square foot historic building that's right on Main Street with the goal of allowing the retail makers a low overhead entry to a real retail marketplace to test or grow businesses or products. We currently have 18 businesses in the space, which means we are full and on a wait list. We are looking for expansion opportunities in the space. Each business pays a monthly membership fee and receives dedicated and shared workspaces. The retail portion of the space is only about 500 square feet, where 95% of the products that are sold through a single point of sale is made on site. This year, we think they are going to sell $250,000 in product, having very limited hours in operation. So it is a co-work space first. It is a manufacturing space first, and the retail is gravy. So the DDA keeps the other 20% in the space and reinvests it completely into the building or through programs for the member companies. We've had 5 graduates of the program, 3 of which have moved out into their own larger spaces. So it's been pretty successful in the 2 years almost that we've been running it. So we were able to find an underutilized retail space, and in 2020, negotiate I'll say pretty favorable lease because the landlord in that year wanted thought the stability of a government agency would be a good thing with the lease. And what I would pass on to anybody that we talk to about this is I think every community can find similar situations in underutilized spaces and work with the landlords to figure something out, whether it's a retail co-work space like this or a professional co-work space. So I'm going to turn it over to Kaylee, who's the owner of Broken Ankles, and one of our members briefly to talk about her experience here at Made.
So, hi, my name is Kaylee. My brand is Broken Ankles. I make clay jewelry. I am just one of the 18 makers here at Made. Just a little bit about my small business. I was working full time. I became a member in November, and I was able to completely quit my full-time job and go full-time with my small business in April. MAID has had such a positive impact on not only my business, but myself personally. And I think I can speak on behalf of all the other creatives here as well. It has given us the chance to do classes, to interact with our customers and other makers face to face here at MAID. So it's been amazing. We get to have access to a studio space. So we no longer have to, work in our living room or anything like that. We can have everything in one space. And then we get to sell our product up front. So it has been amazing just being with other creatives as well. Bouncing off ideas and things with each other is also a positive because, as a creator, we get in our headspace sometimes and we're like, no, I just don't think that is a good idea. But you have other people cheering you on and they're right there with you. So MAID has been awesome. And thank you again, Tracy and Brian, for letting me.
And I think we have one other maker that we'd like to hear from.
Yes.
In terms of the sounding board, I love that idea that there are people who can, give you a check-in.
Right.
Hi, my name is Samantha Dickey. I'm with Dirty Beauty Skincare, and I have been with MAID for 2 years. I was one of the original makers, and I'll tell you that everything that Kaylee said is absolutely true. Since being here, I've had interviews on TV. I've had lots of exposure, lots of collaborating. I've been able to really revamp my business, speak with customers, get ideas, and it's been absolutely invaluable. So just thank you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and to advocate for small business.
Thank you so much. And I thought that you would all appreciate hearing from some of the people on the front lines, the artisans doing the work, the economic development partners making it happen. And so that brings us to the end. Unless we have some questions in the chat, we're a minute over, but I'm certainly happy to stay here, Natalie, if we have any questions that we haven't answered yet. Nope, looks like we've done a good job of getting to them along the way. Okay, terrific. So certainly you have the contacts for these resources that we shared today. Small business is having a moment. I hope you all are part of it and that you are a great resource for your communities to enable the entrepreneurs, and that you check out Kennedy's report that she put out this year, because it was really inspirational and it's what made me want to bring these resources to you today. So thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next Lunch and Learn.
Great job. Really good team.
Thanks, JVB.
Job.